Hey, welcome back to the Y Experience with JJ Cannon. I hope that y'all had a fantastic week and weekend. You know, it's the beginning of the year, and sometimes it can be stressful. Do you ever get that feeling of fear when anticipating what's to come? You know what I'm talking about. Knots in the stomach prior to giving a presentation or, a podcast. A fixation on the outcome of an event like a test or a game. Have you experienced restlessness and can't sleep because of maybe a financial challenge you and your spouse might be facing? So let's talk about this crazy feeling we get. Because if it's not dealt with, it could get you triggered, drive you crazy, and it could even overrun your life. So today we're talking about anxiety and managing your crazy self. Hey, for those of you that are new viewers and listeners, I'm JJ Cannon. I'm a 20-year husband and father of 2 beautiful girls. I'm CEO of Digital Delight, a smart home design and installation firm. I also get the opportunity to co-host with one of my really close friends, Chris Gamble, the Digital Ramble. It's a show about the ever-changing environment of technology. And I have a master's degree in getting knocked down and getting back up. So thanks for tuning in. Please share, like, follow. You can find us here on Facebook, also on Instagram. We also broadcast this on YouTube for the Y Experience with JJ Cannon. And we do a lot of podcasting on Anchor and iTunes and Spotify. So check us out. Wow. We have had a lot of good responses and engagement from our community. And I say thank you. Thank you very much. Like I stated in my intro, I've been married for 20 years. And it hasn't always been that glorious. Hope and I have had our challenges in marriage and in business. There was a time that we thought the end was near. Man, scary stuff. I have to give it to my wife for seeking out help through our church. We were connected with Randy Gutenberger, and I want to welcome Randy. Randy, how are you?
Great.
Thanks for coming to the
Thank
show.
You for letting me come on board.
Now, Randy, for those that don't know, for 23 years, you've been a personality insight analysis for corporations, families, and individuals.
Right.
What got you started down this path? What motivated you to help others battling anxiety?
Well, I worked with the Boy Scouts for 11 years, and they trained us in people management and getting it was a combination of management versus child development in elementary age and then leadership with young people. And those dynamics I just fell in love with, getting the people in the right jobs, helping us learn how to discover and be confident with yourself, watching kids mature, team synergy, dynamics, leadership, planning, goal setting, achievement. All those things were wonderful to me. And I worked with thousands of volunteers in a county of 100 packs and troops and committees and getting people in the right roles. And every 3 years they would move up because their kids would age. So there's a lot of turnover. So that human movement was amazing. And I realized they trained us with great tools, corporate tools and management. And I wanted to bring those tools and insights to people. So I left scouting after 11 years to bring these tools to people.
Right. Yeah. Boy Scouts of America, fantastic organization.
Program's awesome.
Incredible program. We actually had Santa Claus in, and he used to be a part of the Boy Scouts in the past. I was shocked to find that anxiety disorders are the most common mental illness in the U.S. It affects 40 million adults 18 and older. Although anxieties are treatable, only 37% of those suffering actually seek treatment. Why is that, Randy?
Well, part of it, is you said adults 18 and older.
Yeah.
The anxiety starts in childhood.
Yeah.
I jokingly say we're born into the world, and in the womb we don't know that there's a problem. We don't know there's a mom or a universe. But once we're born, we're sucking air.
Yeah.
It's cold. We're wet. We're hungry. We want to be fed wet. And so our brain tries to protect us. Then as we go through early development years, we get abandoned at daycare in first grade. And then we go to different teachers and then to junior high, and our body changes. And then we go to high school. And, teenagers and kids can be really brutally honest with each other. It's tough to go through those years of development. And we create a lot of anxiety through that. We get a lot of it from our parents. unknowingly. We have blind projections that we take on in our environmental structures. And of course, there's other things like birth order and community and geography and finance and all those things that affect you too. Then you got to pick a career. You got to go to a college. You got to leave home permanently.
Right.
So then you engage in relationships, and those are challenging, like you say, and many of them don't make it. They don't work through it, and they break up, and they got to start again. And so it's inherent in us, but that's why I do the program, is to help people understand the science of what the brain's doing to us and how do we manage that and have a calm, healthy day and relationships. It's pretty exciting stuff when you start seeing the pieces and the puzzle pieces, how they trigger one another and how you can take charge of them and not let them manage you.
Right. Now, whenever we got to know each other, you used animals, and the rhinoceros, and also you brought the ostrich in. And tell us, why do you use these animals as an example?
Well, it's funny because when I was really growing up, I wanted to be a wildlife manager. And there weren't any jobs when I went to school for that. And so I got a business degree. And then I went through the management training and development and child development and leadership at the Boy Scouts. But when I wrote the book and I was farming it out to people, they would say, "Randy, I like it. I'll read it later." And they'd take the book and they'd set it down. Right. I go, "No, I want to engage them. I don't want to lose them."
Right.
And so I thought and I prayed about it. And I finally realized cartoon characters. People love cartoon characters. Mm-hmm. So I love the rhino because the rhino represents the conscious mind. And it was a motivational book years ago written by Scott Alexander called Rhinoceros Success in the 80s, went around the country. And all it was an attitude book talking about have thick skin, blaze new trails, don't take no for an answer, live as if you have no enemies, take charge of your life is the caption I put to it. And so I said, I'm going to make the conscious mind the rhinoceros. So I need another cartoon character that'll go, or animal that'll go with the instinctive brain, which is our protection system. And so I had to find an illustrator. And so I went out and looked for an illustrator around town, different art schools. And the lady said, "You want Sean Carson?" And I said, "No, I really want 3 teams to do this and compete because I don't know what it's going to look like." Mm-hmm. She said, "I'm telling you, you want Sean Carson." Mm-hmm. And sure enough, I went to him and he just made these concepts come alive in the characters. So the ostrich represents the instinctive brain, which is not you. It's a program in your head. We'll get into that in a little bit. But it warns you of danger. But the conscious you is the rhinoceros. And so you want to move to the conscious thinking. And so the cartoon characters tell the story throughout the book and where the problem is, the structure of why we have the problems, how that manifests, and then what are the solutions, and how do we, and so the pictures, we remember the stories. We remember seeing the illustrations, and it resonates with people. So then they want to keep reading the book. Mm-hmm. And so it worked out great.
Yeah, because in the book you have some really cool illustrations. And for those that are interested or might be challenged with anxiety, mm-hmm. I encourage you can find Managing Your Crazy Self on Amazon.
Correct.
And then also you have a website that people can take a look at called Managing Your Crazy. And this is really a series that you're that you are putting together.
Right. It's a series that we're going to be developing, but there's so much in this first step, just you managing you, that's so important for your own success and with the close relationships that you have.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So great. Thanks for bringing this book in. Definitely going to check it out. And for those, take a look. It's down in the description, so people can jump down in the description and they can find how they can get a hold of you, Randy. Also, where to purchase this book, as well as your website. So people, please take a look down there in the description. Also, this is a live show, so if you would be so kind, drop some comments down there in the bottom. And as we go towards the end of the show, we're going to address some of those comments that
that'd be great.
You might be posting. Hey, so Randy, tell me, instinctive, cognitive. You kind of touched on it a little bit, but there's more to it. So these might be vocabulary that's new,
right,
to some people. And so can you break it down?
Yeah, we'll try to do that simply. The book represents how the brain is giving us thoughts and emotions. And it's giving us thoughts and emotions before we consciously start thinking. So your heart beats, your lung breathes, your stomach digests.
It just happens.
Yeah, your hair grows, your eyes blink. There's a lot going on. If you touch something hot, your hand jerks. You didn't think jerk your hand. Your protection system does that automatically.
That's instinctive.
It's instinctive. And so it thinks you're like a rabbit in the wild and a hawk or a fox is going to kill you, right? You're in danger. We as humans live almost like gods. We pick our air temperature. But we don't give ourselves enough credit because we keep defaulting to these reactionary emotions. And so the instinctive brain is flooding us all day long until we consciously take charge of them. And it's much like a child that's crying. You don't go back and yell at the child. That won't work. You got to figure out if they want to be held, wet, fed, move. And you use logic to manage the emotion.
And that's cognitive.
Yes, that's the cognitive.
Like, how do I assess? Well, first you assess, but how do I address the thinking process?
Exactly.
Right.
So, everybody's been on the airplane. There's a crying baby or something nearby at a restaurant, and it drives you crazy because of that screaming noise. But that's not the way to handle it, is to react to it. The thing to do is have some entertaining toy or a little candy for the kid or help the mom out and distract the child, redirect them into something that's productive, and then they stop the crying. Mm-hmm. So there's principles in our brain of how it works. And that's what I'm trying to bring to people, is that you can do this in self-management. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It helps if you go through counseling. Now we're training counselors around the state with it. But if you just read the book, you can recognize your own crazy self and name it and learn how to have a healthy day, which we all want.
So what steps do you take to identify maybe the culprits of anxiety? I mean, you touched on a couple of them, like a test for school and things like that. Oh yeah,
anything from I don't want to get out of bed today, to you got to eat something you don't want to eat, to getting to school on time or work on time, or dealing with relationships or teachers or people that you don't enjoy. You can feel those tensions. Somebody cuts you off in traffic. Your brain triggers those emotions for defense, and it sends you to fight, flight, or freeze. And once you're in that brainstem of fight, flight, or freeze, you stay there until you consciously choose something different. And so the key is to learn how to choose that and let it go and move forward. When I was growing up in first grade, I didn't know last names mattered until I went to first grade. And so my last name's Gutenberger, and people started calling me Good Burgers, Hamburgers, all these funny names. And at first I was really offended and shocked because no one prepared me for this. And then I thought, for some wonderful reason, I have a great name. Nobody has my name. They all know my name. And I took it as a positive. And so when I started laughing with it, they quit. So there's a real trigger. Even that experience was positive for me to take a negative. And my sister didn't do that. She came home crying. And I didn't tell her, obviously. At first grade, I didn't tell her that was going to happen.
You let her experience it herself.
Yeah, that's right. And so then she married somebody and changed her name anyway.
Smith. Let's keep it simple.
But there's really great techniques that we can use to snap out of that emotional reactionary funk that we get trapped into. And you feel it when you see someone that's coming you don't like or you're mad at.
Yeah, you
can feel the tension.
Like you can feel it.
What that is, so thoughts generate chemicals in our body. And so when you think something, somebody cuts you off, you get that tension. It's releasing adrenaline from the brainstem for fight, flight, or freeze. And fight is you argue, you hit, you attack back, you're on the assertive. Flight is you withdraw, you don't say anything, you cower down, you avoid. And so when you're in that, it's all about survival. So the real question you want to ask is, if this protection system is trying to protect me for survival, am I going to die? Are you going to die? If you're not, you got to learn to let it go. Okay, how? And that's the key.
Yeah, I remember that was one of the things that was for me, is that I would tell you that I just feel it coming, like I feel it boiling up, and you're like, Jay, man, that's when you just need to step out of that environment, maybe go change
your setting,
change the environment, and step out,
and
then use your cognitive to really dial in on what action needs to be taken. And that was refreshing to me, because it's simple. You figure that, oh man, I got this, but sometimes it has to be laid out for you to identify, that there's two brains and two things are happening, going on.
Exactly. And if you're in your protection system brain, fight, flight, or freeze, you will only get certain emotions: fear, anxiety, depression, stress, all those things. You don't get trust, innovation, belief, and creativity. Those only exist in the conscious mind. And so, like, another technique is when I was driving, and I used to call people morons, idiots, or jerks, you know, depending on what maneuver they do. And it's really about the maneuver. It's not the person driving. But I realized I was triggering my own negative emotions, going into fight, flight, or freeze, releasing chemicals that I didn't need because then I had to detox from them. So I started calling the bad drivers geniuses. And so I say
because you would unintentionally create like a feedback loop.
Yes.
Like it'd feed into itself, and this is just a crazy.
And that's what I call the
repetition.
unhealthy loop of thinking. We think a thought, we react. That records as a memory whatever we did, and we reinforce it over and over and over. And that's what leads us to unhealthy coping mechanisms, whether it's arguing with someone, being defiant. As adults, we get into addictions, drugs, workaholic, sex, smoking, whatever, even avoidance, being a couch potato, or any of our behaviors.
Just being passive.
The brain is very addictive to anything, and we have to learn to manage it in healthy ways. Eating is another one. Even people that overrun and run marathons all year long or do some other exercise, workaholics, can portray themselves into that, and what they're really doing is blocking the reality from connecting with their true self.
Randy, I share with my friends and colleagues of some of the challenges that I've faced in the past with anxiety, and I tell them one of the biggest eye openers for me was understanding what motivates others. And in the sense, it was all about me and not about we. And a good example that I have is, I'd come home after a real long day, and it'd be like I have expectations from the other person that I didn't see fit that were met, and that other person had accomplished, and I'm talking about my wife. I'd come home after a long day, and I'd be like, I worked hard, and I've provided all this, and Hope's sitting there saying, well, I've worked hard too, and I've tried to provide all this. And although both of them are meaningful and impactful to one another, the how we were presenting it to one another wasn't registering. Like,
well, you're both wanting that recognition instead of giving it to the other one.
Right. And not seeing, the return that and the value that we were trying to present to one another. And so you have a program that helps identify and resonates with others. And so let's talk to the audience about this. And, I'm kind of leading into the Counseling Association.
Right. Well, when I wrote the book, I wanted to make sure it was how it resonated with counselors, so I vetted it out to many licensed counselors. And everyone, without exception, said, Randy, this is great stuff. I've never seen anything like this. You need to take this to the counseling associations. They would love it. So I gambled, just took off, went out and got booths and started telling them my story, showing them materials, and they loved it. It works for them because it gives them curriculum. It explains with the ostrich and the rhino the basic cognitive behavioral therapy, what's really happening. It's easy for the clients to understand. They can put the book and the ostrich in the room, and the people say, what's that about? And then I help with the little stories, like the brain is our brain works like a video game. The brain itself, the instinctive part, is the hardware. Your personality, which is made up of many different components, behavior style, motivator, learning style, love language, gifts, are your starting point, but they're your software to the brain. Well, if you buy a video game and you buy the hardware, the box and the game, you still haven't played it. Once you start playing it, you're entering data in there. Well, that's your life. That's the experiences you put. Right. Well, that goes into your memory. So your brain is using your memory, not anybody else's, to flood you with emotions of protection from the past. That's what's misleading us. That's the ostrich.
I gotcha. So, what tips do you have for those that might be having an aha moment right now? Like, some people might be going, geez, you know what? There might be something under the surface that I need to...
Because we feel these emotions, we think they're real. They're not, because the instinctive brain, the ostrich part of you, is mature at birth. But your conscious mind doesn't mature until age 7, meaning the circuit's not complete. So even the kids in first grade are very much led by the first grade teacher. The student is the follower. In second grade, it switches. The child becomes the leader, the teacher becomes a parent. In third grade, they start working. The child becomes the leader and the parent becomes the support, or the teacher becomes the support. In third grade, they teach organization, which is amazing because the kids want to do it themselves. And so there's progression of thought that comes with this cognitive awareness. And so as adults, we have our emotions of the past that we're projecting onto our children. So some easy things to do when you feel these things, because we get into our loops from our memories of how we handle it over and over and over. Number one is recognize your emotion and name it. If you name it something funny, it renders it harmless. So
do you got a name?
I have a good one. I have Rooster Foghorn Leghorn, which is a cartoon character from way back when. It says, "Son, I say son."
Son, I say son. I think I remember that cat.
You can do Kramer. Rooster. You can do Kramer on Seinfeld, Carol Burnett, Wile E. Coyote. It doesn't matter who you name it. It matters that it makes you laugh.
Yeah.
Because naming it is a spiritual principle, really, in my view. When God said name the animals, he didn't say, here's a list, go find them. He said name them. So we name our kids, we name our work, we name our company, we name things, and that's an authoritative thought. So it's in the conscious mind. But if you take it, don't just barely get there. Have fun with yourself. Have fun with this idea. If you name it something funny, it renders it harmless. So when I say Rooster Foghorn's upset today, Foghorn's not having a good day, I feel better already. And then the second thing is only give yourself one gripe a day. And once you have that gripe, you go, that one's really what's going to make me mad. And if it's not, then you say, I'm going to let it go. I'm going to wait for a really good one. And so once you let it go, you redirect to tomorrow to have a meeting to talk about it. Why tomorrow? One, you want to free yourself today. If you stay with today, you're going to stay worked up. But once you go to sleep, your brain does more work at sleep than it does during the day. In the day, it's gathering information. At night, it stores it. So when you wake up tomorrow, here's the interesting thing, like a search program in the computer.
And so, hold on real quick. I've always heard, don't go to bed angry.
Correct.
Try to work it out.
That's right.
And that used to be the technique that we used, but you kind of enlightened us. Go ahead.
So you want to redirect to tomorrow all the problems that you're going to have, because that allows you to shut down. You don't go into the anxiety mode. You say, I'm going to deal with that at 9 o'clock. Your brain works like a computer. And if you've ever written code, once you say, I'm going to live with that at 9 o'clock, it'll say, okay, then what am I going to do now? It goes to the next thing to warn you about. And if you keep telling it, that's going to be later, that's going to be later, you do deal with it later. You don't want to deny it. That would be another problem.
Right.
You want to manage it by moving it out and giving you a peaceful day today. Well, what happens tomorrow is when we wake up, our search scanner, just like you're going to Google something, has new words in it. So it's seeking different data. And guess what happens tomorrow at 9 o'clock? You forget.
Yeah.
And so at 11 o'clock, you get mad on the next day's one gripe, and you go, dadgummit, that makes me so mad. Wait, I was supposed to be mad at 9 o'clock.
Right.
How come I forgot?
Right.
Well, it wasn't real. It was a protection of the past, and the ostrich, knowing time in the past that it's really trying to protect you from, relating to your moment.
That instinct.
Yep.
And
so we're misled by our own brain. That's the problem of the design of it. But it's also beautiful because without that, we wouldn't learn to overcome it.
Right.
And by overcoming it, you choose to become. So we have to overcome to become.
Yeah. And I recognize that, Randy, that, if at night, if there's a challenge or a problem, we were always battling to see who was right.
Yep.
We're not
validation.
We're not finishing this until I'm right.
Yep.
Or the other person's like, we're not finishing this until I'm right.
You don't ever do that, do you?
No, not anymore. Not anymore. Do we? I don't think so. For those of you that are new to the show, my wife, she always sits over here off to the left of me, and I always like bringing her. I always like talking about her. It's hard for her to do anything while I'm on the mic. Well, man, whenever we're in the morning, it's like you're refreshed, your mind has cleared, you're not exhausted, and you can really apply some cognitive thinking.
Correct.
To whatever that challenge might have been the day before.
So think of like waking up in the morning. What does an alarm clock say? How do they go off? Wah, 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 right? Alert, alert, alarm, alarm. That's exactly how our brain thinks. It doesn't wake us up and say, hey, good looking, this is going to be a fabulous day. You think yesterday was great? Wait till you get out today. Get those feet on the floor and let's go. Let's make it happen. That's not how the brain does, because it's an alarm system. It's a security system. It's only sending out alerts to what it perceives as a problem. Now, it has all your memory, but it has no coding to initiate the good. It's only trying to protect. So that's one really important secret about the brain. The other is once you correct it and you redirect it, it has no coding to argue back. What it does is go to the next warning system that it knows in its history may not have anything to do with the moment.
Cool. Randy, we have a couple of comments down here.
All
Mike,
right.
if you'd scroll all the way up to the top, let's take a look at some of these comments. Chris says that I'm looking good. Thank you, brother.
It's the jacket.
I appreciate that. It is the jacket. What's the name of the book? Yeah, thanks for asking, Chris. It's Managing Your Crazy Self. There we go.
Managing Your Crazy Self.
And it has a little ostrich on there, and
There's
he
a little
looks
bigger
like
one.
he's trying to figure out what's going on because he's battling bills and tasks.
Yep.
And
That's the way the brain thinks in the days. It's scanning all the problems that you have.
it's also down in the link there, Gamble. So if anybody's looking for that book, that would be great. I think, let's see, do we have any more comments there? Okay. Well, fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I see that we got 6 viewers, so if you got a couple more comments, drop them down there in the bottom. And Randy, you got a couple of things coming up here in town, a couple of presentations that you're giving.
Yes,
Is that
we're doing
right?
workshops at the Crown Plaza downtown of 59, and they're on Saturdays from 9 to 1. We'd love for you to come on the February 16th or March 2nd, April 13th, and May 4th. And these are for anyone to come, but it's also for counselors or educators. We can give them CEUs and CPEs. It's a fantastic thing. They get the brain concept of managing your crazy. They get the personality dynamics with assessments. They get the whole binder with the program, and we'll go introduce the workbook, which is how to apply your experiences and evaluate those and heal the core emotional wound. Our brain, our wonderful little ostrich, creates a core emotional wound in all of us. That's what's screwing us up. And we don't know it. We're blind to it. We think we know what it is, but we don't consciously recognize it. Very few people do. And so when I do the sessions and coaching with people, the workbook guides us through a discovery to discover what that is, and then you can heal it and move forward, and it changes your whole life. It changes your perception on yourself because it's healing. And healing is an interesting thing we talk about in the book. Can I talk about that a minute?
Sure.
A memory is made of 2 things. It's made of an event that happened and an emotion of the event. And if you can change the emotion of the event, you heal the emotion. You heal the memory. So our brain is really wired to give us PTSD on anything. It could be my sister got the blue dress. I didn't make All-Stars. Dad didn't give me time or pick me. I didn't get picked on that team. It does not matter what the event is. It's the emotion of the event that's driving us crazy and starts that anxiety, fear, whatever reactionary thing we do. Healing that is the most powerful thing. And anyone that, like veterans or that have true PTSD, it's not just them, it's their family members too that we want to work with. Because supporting someone going through a traumatic event, even in Houston, the flood was a traumatic event. People lost homes and challenges and had to move, and I mean, it's costly, oh my gosh. But we're all meant to heal from those. And it's okay. It doesn't matter so much what the event is, it's how we're dealing with it and learning the little techniques to make it work. And that's what we want to do. Is I want minimal effort with maximum return to give you the peace in yourself to reconnect. And then in your conscious mind, you have trust, innovation, belief, and creativity. And it's unlimited how good you can make your life and your relationships, yourself, your mate, your kids, and your coworkers.
I tell you what, Randy, after working with you for several months and Hope and I working together, it was like a weight off my shoulders. Understanding how my mind is working and how it's programmed to respond either instinctively or cognitively, and being able to compartmentalize those and understand has greatly helped benefit how my day-to-day actions.
We want to make this a household name, and that's my goal, is to get it out there.
Fantastic. Randy, do you have anything in closing you'd like to add?
No, that's it. Come to the workshops, buy the book. If you're a counselor and you want to learn to put this in your program, the counselors, I got 23 of them around the state now getting certified, and we're going to be going national next month.
That's so awesome. Congratulations, Randy. Hey, so take a look down in the description. We got a link on Amazon to Randy's book here. Also, you can take a look at managingyourcrazy.com,
Correct.
which is Randy's website.
Look forward to seeing you.
All right. Hey,
We're all abnormal,
yeah.
and it's okay. We can all grow from that, and it's what we're supposed to do.
All right. Friends, thank y'all for joining us today on the Why Experience with JJ Cannon. And I want to encourage everyone to seek out their why. In every experience they create, ask yourself, why am I doing what I do? And what is the effect it's having on me and potentially others? In addition to that, ask, is it a positive return or is it not? I hope in everything we do, it is for the better. So until next week, friends, y'all have a great day and a great week. If you're looking to make your basic home smart, check out digitaldelight.com/shop, where they have a variety of different smart home technology solutions that help make smart home shopping easy for you. Check out digitaldelight.com/shop. Support the Why Experience with JJ Cannon by becoming a Patreon. Every month, the Why Experience will receive a regular source of income from supporters like you who've pledged through Patreon. Having your ongoing support for as little as $1 a month means we spend less time thinking about business and more time creating quality content for you.